Jai Om Vishnupada Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Paragamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabhazutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vidam Scha Om Jnana Timaranda Shagyanajana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhishtam Supurakam Gargana Rasesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Vidam Ujwalam Varatanam Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Cha Divyat Bhagavat Premna Vibhija Pranam Devam Divyatanam Suchandabaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyambunim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishwara Sridharam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. We're reading from Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat by Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur. This is with translation by Sarvabhavana Prabhu, a devotee from Bengal. And this is the Adi-khanda. Adi-khanda, chapter 14, the departure of Sri Lakshmipriya. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Gaurasundar, who is very dear to Nityananda Prabhu. His transcendental body is comprised of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. All glories to the Lord, who is the life and soul of Pradyumna Mishra. All glories to the most treasured object of Sri Paramananda Puri. All glories to you, my Lord, for you are the life and soul and the most precious gem of all the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, please look mercifully upon us, the living entities, and liberate us all from the bonds of nescience. I humbly request everyone to please listen faithfully and attentively to the wonderful activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, in his form as a young Brahmin boy. The Lord of Vaikuntha absorbed himself in the mood of a scholar and passed his time in academic pursuits with his disciples. In every neighborhood of Navadip, he was seen performing his self-assured and playful pastimes. By then, every person had come to unquestioningly accept Nimai Pandit as the topmost scholar and teacher in Navadip. Rich, influential, and aristocratic men would immediately take a humble position upon seeing Nimai and offer their respects to him. The very sight of him induced a sense of awe and reverence in the residents, who were all captivated by his charm. Nimai Pandit would frequently receive gifts from various classes of people in Navadip. He set the perfect example as a householder and was as charitable as the Supreme Lord himself. Whenever Nimai saw a poor person, he would kindly offer him food, clothing, or money. In this way, Nimai generously distributed gifts to the poor. An endless stream of guests visited the Lord's house. The Lord offered each one respect according to his position and rendered him service to his full satisfaction. On some days, sannyasis would visit his house and the Lord would serve them graciously. Once 20 sannyasis came at one time, so the Lord sent word to his mother to cook for all of them. Sachimata fell in immediate anxiety, for she had nothing in the house to feed 20 sannyasis. Lost in her problems, she did not notice that someone had brought all the different ingredients she might require and left them in the kitchen. Lakshmi Devi immediately went to the kitchen and, pleased with the array of ingredients, she cooked some special preparations. After the cooking, the Lord checked the arrangements and then invited the sannyasis to sit down. He supervised the serving of their prasad, and he satisfied each one of them personally. In this way, the Lord satisfied all his guests and taught the world how to behave as a perfect householder. The foremost duty of a householder is to serve his guests, and responsible householders must live by that standard. The householder who does not serve and satisfy his guests properly is lower than an animal or a bird. Even those who, because of their previous impious activities, have insufficient means to be hospitable, can at least offer a place to sit, some water, and a place to rest. That humble hospitality, that simple hospitality is sufficient to satisfy any guest if it is offered with love and affection. A householder who is pious may be poverty-stricken and possess very little with which to serve a guest, but his disposition should be hospitable. He can offer drinking water and water with which the guest can wash his feet. He can offer a grass mat on which the guest can sit and rest to become refreshed, and he can offer sweet words to please the weary ears of the traveler. The host must endeavor with all humility to keep the guest from leaving his house and beg forgiveness for any mistakes in his humble hospitality. A householder who sincerely tries to satisfy his guests, even though his means are meager, is considered hospitable. The Supreme Personality of Godhead set the example of a perfect householder and repeatedly asked his guests if they had any further needs and if they were satisfied. These guests, of course, were the most fortunate souls, for Srimati Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, and Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, the proprietor of the entire cosmic manifestation, personally fed them. In the wonderful pastimes of the Supreme Lord, the divine prasadam, which is cherished by great souls like Lord Brahma and other demigods, was freely distributed to common people and ordinary citizens in Navadvip. The 20 sannyasis who were guests in the house of Lord Nimai had become a subject of conversation amongst the people. Some said, those guests could not have been ordinary persons. They must have been Lord Brahma, Shiva, Sukadeva Goswami, Srila Vyasadeva, Narad Muni, and other such elevated personalities. Who else could be eligible to take food in the house of Sri Gauranga, who is non-different from Lord Narayan with his wife Lakshmi Devi? The Supreme Lord has appeared in Navadvip, and these great personalities and demigods must have known of the advent and come in the guise of sannyasis to take prasad in their house. Other than Brahma, who has the great fortune to eat in the house of Mahaprabhu? Some others express their opinion that the Supreme Lord has appeared to alleviate the sufferings of humanity. Along with the Supreme Lord, other demigods like Lord Brahma have also appeared, for they are the eternal associates of the Supreme Lord. Yet in this incarnation, the Lord has promised that I will give the living entities that which is rarely achieved even by Lord Brahma and the other greatest of personalities. Therefore, the Supreme Lord distributes prasad generously from his own house, simply to release the need. Therefore, the Supreme Lord distributes prasad generously from his own house, simply to release the wretched and needy living entities from material suffering. Lakshmi Devi worked without any assistance to serve her Lord and Master, yet she was always in a cheerful mood. Seeing the wonderful qualities and pious nature of Lakshmipriya, Sachimata's joy increased by each hour and every day. From early morning, Lakshmipriya would work alone at the household chores, setting an example of an ideal wife. In the temple room, she decorated the floor with auspicious designs made from colored paste. In the temple room, she decorated the floor with auspicious. In the temple room, she decorated the floor with auspicious designs made from colored paste. She drew the different symbols of the Lord like the conch shell and chakra. She also arranged for the paraphernalia required for the Lord's worship, like incense, flowers, lamp, water, etc. She worshipped Tulsi Devi and saw to the needs of Sachi Mata, serving her with great affection. The wonderful attributes of Lakshmipriya Devi's nature were noticed by Gaurachandra, and although he never commented, he was extremely satisfied with her. Frequently, Lakshmipriya Devi would sit for long hours massaging the Lord's lotus feet on her lap. At times, when she served her Lord like that, Sachi Mata could see brilliant effulgence emanating from the feet of Gaurachandra. At other times, the fragrance of lotus flowers would fill the entire house. And although Sachi Mata would search everywhere, she could not find the source of the fragrance. Srimati Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, and the Supreme Lord Narayan remained incognito, unrecognized by the residents of Navadip. Without any prior indication, Lord Gauranga one day announced his desire to visit the eastern part of Bengal. "I'll be gone for a few days," he told his mother. To Lakshmipriya Devi, he instructed, "Please always look after your mother's needs." The Lord gathered a few of his confidential disciples and prepared for his journey. People gathered to see him off, but as the Lord departed, they stood transfixed in their places, simply staring after him. It was difficult for them to take their eyes away from the Lord. The lady said, "The mother of this young man must be very pious and fortunate. We offer our obeisances at her feet." Fortunate also is the wife of this young man. Her birth as a woman has become worthy just by gaining such an excellent husband. In this way, the residents discussed the Lord's glory as they watched him leave. It was only by his mercy that the ordinary residents of Navadip could see him directly. Even the demigods long to see the Lord in this way. Lord Gaurasundar continued his unhurried journey and eventually arrived upon the banks of the river Padmavati. The river view was enchanting. Small waves constantly creased the wide expanse of water, and on either bank green forests lined the powerful current. The Lord was refreshed by the sight of the river and joined his friends for a swim in the clear water. Padmavati became fully spiritualized by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet, and her water was thereafter capable of purifying the entire creation. Padmavati was truly a beautiful river, her lapping waves and swift current most pleasing to the mind. The enchanting forest on her banks were equally pleasing, so the Lord stayed there for a few days. It was Padmavati's good fortune that the Lord now blessed her, joyfully playing in her water, just as he had played in the Ganga at Navadip. From the moment the Lord entered East Bengal, the land became blessed and remains so even today. The residents were happy to learn that the Lord would spend some days on the banks of the Padmavati. News of the Lord's arrival swiftly spread far and wide. Nimai Pandit, the crest jewel of all scholars and the foremost of teachers, has arrived, the residents announced. Pious Brahmins came forward to greet the Lord, each bearing a gift for him. They offered their obeisances to him and humbly requested, O Our great fortune must be immeasurable to have your presence in this country. People of East Bengal make a tremendous endeavor to collect funds and arrange to go to Navadip to study under the great scholar Nimai Pandit, said one Brahmin. However, by the divine grace of the Supreme Lord, that ocean of knowledge has personally come to our doorstep. You are certainly the incarnation of Brihaspati, for no other teacher can compare with you. Upon closer scrutiny, however, I consider that comparison is inadequate. I am convinced that you are an empowered expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am convinced that you are an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Krishna. My heart tells me it is impossible to find such erudition in anyone except the Supreme. We all submit this humble petition to you. It is our greatest wish that you impart knowledge to us. In your absence, we have always thought about you, studied your commentaries among ourselves, and have also taught our students the same. However, now you are here in person, so please accept us as your disciples and let the whole world know of your wonderful pastimes. The Lord smiled at all of them, happily giving them assurance and hope, and remained in East Bengal for some time. The Lord smiled at all of them, humbly giving them assurance and hope, and remained in East Bengal for some time, enjoying the land and the people. It is because of this event that the residents of East Bengal are attracted to the holy name and engage in congregational chanting, even today. However, at the time of the composition of this book, a group of evil persons were trying to mislead people in general from the spiritual path with wrong advice. These sinners claim to be pious, but cheat people just to fill their bellies. Another group of sinful offenders stopped performing devotional congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord and began instead to chant Narayan, foolishly thinking that the name of the Supreme Lord Narayan refers to themselves. It is most obvious that these men are under the clutches of the modes of material nature, so how can they shamelessly profess themselves to be the Supreme Lord? In the district of Radhadesh, there lived a man who externally appeared to be a Brahmin, but internally was a sinful demon. He declared himself Gopal, the Supreme Lord, but the more intelligent men considered him a sly and evil fox. Anyone who claims to be the Supreme Godhead, separate from Sri Krishna Chaitanya, is certainly the most wicked soul, fit to live only in hell. I loudly declare with both my hands raised high that the only true Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the entire material creation, is Sri Gaura Hari. Just by remembering his name, one becomes free from material entanglement. Even by simply remembering his servant, one becomes victorious in every sphere of life. See around you that the whole world is chanting the glories of his name. So discard your misdirected conceptions and serve the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Gaurachandra, the Lord of Vaikuntha, enjoyed traveling in East Bengal, immersed in the mood of a scholar. On the enchanting bank of the river Padmavati, the Lord roamed through the forest and imparted knowledge to large gatherings of eager students. Hundreds came from everywhere to crowd his lectures. They all had one thought in mind. I want to study from Nimai Pandit. Such was the extent of the Lord's mercy upon them that within 2 months all the listeners became very knowledgeable and scholarly. Although many came simply to hear the Lord, hundreds of students returned to their homes with degrees. In this way, the Lord passed his time as a scholar in East Bengal. Meanwhile, in Navadip, Lakshmipriya Devi was feeling the pangs of separation from her Lord, but she never spoke of her loneliness to anyone. She served Sachimata very lovingly, but reduced her own eating almost to nothing after the Lord left Navadip. Bereft of his company, she silently suffered, crying alone throughout each night, trying to suppress the restlessness which welled in her heart. Bereft of his company, she silently suffered, crying alone throughout the night, trying to suppress the restlessness which welled in her heart. Unable to bear any further separation from the Supreme Lord, Sri Lakshmipriya Devi, the Lord's eternal consort, left a replica of her transcendental body behind and went secretly to meet her Lord. Seated upon the bank of the Ganga, Lakshmipriya Devi fixed the lotus feet of the Lord within her heart and went deep into meditation, never to return. Sachimata's shock and deep grief is indescribable. Her pitiable lamentations could have melted stone. Since I am incapable of describing the mellow of sadness experienced by Sachimata, I shall not go into further details, but simply mention the incident in brief. The saintly Vaishnavas were also grief-stricken by the news, and they all came forward to help complete the necessary rituals. The Supreme Lord remained for some time in Bengal and then returned of his own desire to Navadip. When the residents of East Bengal learned that the Lord would leave, they immediately collected gifts and precious treasures to give him. They presented to him gold, silver, drinking vessels, beautiful mats, soft and warm blankets, and a variety of clothes. Each person took what was most precious in his house and joyfully offered it to the Supreme Lord. And joyfully offered it to the Lord. In reciprocation, the Lord blessed each person and accepted the gifts. The Supreme Lord Sri Gaurahari visited the residents, and after taking their leave, he started for Navadip. Many students decided to accompany the Lord to Navadip, where they could study under him. As the Lord was about to leave, an intelligent Brahmin named Tapan Mishra approached him. Although Tapan Mishra was a pure devotee and was well versed in the consciousness of the Vedas, he could find no one to answer his questions on the perfect spiritual path and the ultimate and absolute worshipable object. He constantly chanted the holy name of Krishna, yet he felt dissatisfied in the absence of proper spiritual understanding. He had lived in this perturbed state of mind for some time, but because of his piety, he was awarded a vision in an early morning dream. An effulgent person who looked like a demigod spoke some confidential instructions to him. Listen, O Brahman, you are a renowned soul, so do not worry so much. Pacify your mind. Go and meet Nimai Pandit. He will explain all that you want to know about the spiritual path and the highest spiritual goal. He is not an ordinary mortal, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. He has appeared in this material world, accepting a human body to perform his wonderful transcendental pastimes. However, I warn you not to repeat what I have just told you, for this knowledge is most confidential. It is not available, even in the Vedas. If you reveal this, then you will suffer unbearable pain, life after life. The demigod disappeared from his dream, and the Brahman awoke. His wonderful vision thrilled him and he shed tears of joy. Convinced that his fortune had changed, the Brahman received new life and left immediately to meet the Lord. When he reached the bank of the Padmavati, he saw Sri Gaurasundar surrounded by many hundreds of disciples. In the midst of that enchanting scene, he threw himself down at the Lord's lotus feet and then stood up with folded hands. The Brahmin said, I am a fallen and wretched person. Please look upon me mercifully and destroy my bewilderment. I have no knowledge about the perfect spiritual path and the ultimate goal of human life. Be gracious and impart this knowledge to me. My heart does not long for material enjoyment and luxuries. Please tell me, O merciful Lord, what will be the ultimate shelter for my soul? The Lord said, O Brahman, who can describe your good fortune? You have a desire to worship the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, and that is the perfect and highest path. To be a devotee of the Lord is very difficult, so the Lord comes in every yuga to establish the standard of religion for that age. He appears in each of the 4 yugas to establish the particular religious practice for that yuga himself, and then he returns to his spiritual abode. In the Bhagavad Gita, in order to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I invent myself, yuga after yuga, age after age. The Lord appears in every yuga, accepting different incarnations with different complexions, such as white, red, and yellow. Most recently, in the latter portion of Dwapara Yuga, he appeared with a blackish complexion, so he was called Krishna. In the 4 yugas, there are 4 different authorized processes of religion for the elevation of human society. The religious principles for the present age of Kali is congregation of the holy name of Sri Krishna. The real purpose of in the 4 yugas, there are 4 different authorized processes of religion for the elevation of human society. The religious practice for the present age of Kali is congregational chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna. The real purpose of religion is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Hari. And in the different yugas, different religious practices were established by the Supreme Lord himself to achieve this end. In Kali Yuga, the recommended authorized religious practice is congregational chanting of the holy name of Krishna, and this process includes all the other previous processes. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, congregational chanting, the holy name is the essential religious principle, and no other religious practice can help one cross the material ocean of nescience. Constantly chant the Lord's name in any situation. Even the Vedas fail to sufficiently describe the super excellent qualities of chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Listen, my dear Mishra, in Kali Yuga there is no need for severe penances or performance of opulent sacrifices, and whoever worships the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna by this prescribed method of chanting will be crowned with the greatest fortune and process. Listen, my dear Mishra, in Kali Yuga there is no need for severe penances or performance of opulent sacrifices, and whoever worships the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna by this prescribed method of chanting will be crowned with the greatest fortune and success. So go back to your home and worship Sri Krishna with undeviating faith and attention, giving up all duplicitous material desire. By chanting the holy name of Sri Hari Krishna, you will simultaneously obtain both the proper spiritual practice and the ultimate goal. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. I now am repeating this great chant for deliverance to you. This consists of 16 names of the Supreme Lord with 32 syllables. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By constantly chanting and worshiping this Maha Mantra, your heart will feel the first blossoming of Krishna Prem. Then gradually you will understand the truth about the proper spiritual path and the ultimate spiritual goal. Having received such sublime instructions from the Lord, Tapan Mishra offered repeated obeisances at his lotus feet and then said, "O Lord, with your permission, I would like to accompany you." The Lord replied, "You should go immediately to Varanasi. There we shall meet again, and I shall reveal further detail in answer to your request." The Lord then embraced him, and the Brahmin felt his entire body surge with horripilation and spiritual ecstasy. Horripilation is like when the hairs stand on end and other divine symptoms. The Lord then embraced him, and the Brahmin felt his entire body surged with horripilation and spiritual ecstasy. The Lord's embrace filled Sri Mishra with immeasurable happiness. As the Lord prepared to leave, Mishra held his feet tightly and confidentially narrated his entire dream. After hearing of the dream, the Lord said, "You must be very careful not to reveal the truth of this dream to anyone." He then repeated the same instruction to the Brahmin, and then, seeing that an auspicious moment had arrived for him to leave, he laughed loudly and proceeded to Navadip. Thus the Lord purified the entire tract of West Bengal and then returned home. Then the Lord purified the entire tract of East Bengal and then returned home. After a few days, the Lord reached Navadip. In the evening, laden with the gifts he had received, he offered full obeisances at his mother's lotus feet and gave her all the gifts. Then the Lord and his students left to bathe in the Ganges. Although her heart was breaking with pain, Sachimata busied herself preparing a meal for her son. Nimai Pandit acted as the instructing spiritual master to all his students. So he joined them in offering deep and repeated obeisances to the Ganga, and then sported for some time in her water. When his bath was complete, he returned home. The Lord of the Vaikuntha planet, Sri Gaurahari, ate with great satisfaction and then returned and then went to the temple room. One by one, his relatives came forward to greet him after his long absence. They sat around him and he joked and laughed while describing his stay in East Bengal. Nimai imitated the strange habits of the people of East Bengal, and everyone had a good laugh. None of them mentioned the passing of Lakshmi Devi, knowing that the shock would cause the Lord grief. None of them mentioned the passing of Lakshmi Devi, knowing that the shock would cause the Lord grief. After some time, the relatives all returned to their homes, and the Lord laughed After some time, the relatives all returned to their homes, and the Lord sat quietly chewing on betel pond and reflecting on the humorous conversation. Sachimata avoided meeting the Lord. She stayed in her room, deeply affected by the pain of Sri Lakshmipriya's death. When Nimai found his mother, he saw the marks of deep sorrow which lined her face. In a sweet, comforting voice, he said, "What is the reason for your sorrow, mother? I have returned from my journey in good health, so you should be happy. But I see only sadness upon your face. Tell me the truth, mother. What is the reason?" Her son's words simply increased her pain, and she wept silently, unable to speak. "Mother, I know everything," said Nimai. "Tell me, has your daughter-in-law met with misfortune?" Some relatives stepped forward to speak. Listen, Nimai Pandit. Your wife has left for the Ganga and reached the lotus feet of the Lord. The Supreme Lord Sri Gora remained silent, casting his head down as he contemplated the debauchery of the Supreme Lord Sri Gora Hari remained silent, casting his head down as he contemplated the departure of his eternal consort and wife, Sri Lakshmi Devi. He allowed the pain of separation to engulf him, and although he was a personification of all Vedic truths, he remained silent. Like any personification of all Vedic, like any ordinary human being, he displayed the emotions of deep sorrow. But after controlling himself, he spoke. By bodily attachment, one is regarded as a husband or son. These illusory relationships are caused by misunderstandings. O mother, why do you feel sad? How can you hope to change that which has been ordained by the Lord's desire? No one can check the passage of time, and all relationships in this world are temporary. This is the verdict of the Vedas. The activities of the entire cosmic creation rest in the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who but our Lord can bring people together and then separate them? Why should these arrangements of the Supreme Lord make you so happy or unhappy? It is fortune for the wife if she can leave before her husband. It is fortune for the wife if she can leave before her husband. This is proof that she was a most pious woman. The Lord tried to console his mother by these philosophical truths, and everyone felt the well of sadness disintegrate. The Lord tried to console his mother by these philosophical truths, and everyone felt the veil of sadness dissipate by the soothing words of the Supreme Lord. In this way, the Lord of Vaikuntha, Sri Gora Hari, performed wonderful pastimes in the mood of a scholar. Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda are my life and soul. I, Vrindaban Das, humbly offer this song at their lotus feet. I will sing Hari Harai. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namah.
Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Maranamon.
Giridhari Gopinatha Maranamon.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan.
Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan.
Jai Devignana Shamista Puran.
Jai Devinana Savistapuran.
H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas. Sansabar Pararenu Mora Panchagras. Sadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame Janame More Abhilash. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash.
Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayaman.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayaman.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas.
Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas.
Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas.
Nama Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakakshidhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarva Bhoma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga ki jai. Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Bhagawat ki jai. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu ki jai. Vishwavarenya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Navadip Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur ki jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Saparshada Shriman Maha Prabhu ki jai. Shri Kaladvip ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai. Ganga Devi ki jai. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Vrindaban Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kuna Radhakunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai.